And with that, we'll allow the participants to keep rolling in. But I want to start by welcoming you. Good afternoon. I'm Helen Arcantu. I'm the CEO of the YWCA of Northern New Jersey, and my pronouns are she, her, hers. I am so grateful and so proud of all of you that you took some time in your day for this really important conversation. As you know, this is our WEN On The Go financial wellness series. This is not a one-off, obviously. The word series implies there is more to come on this conversation because it is just that important. There's a lot of pieces to this conversation, and this is just one of them that we're so excited to share with you today with our wonderful presenters and all of you as well. So in case you don't know, just to give you a little YW background in case this is your first go around with us, WEN On The Go is one of our signature events in our Women's Empowerment Series, and it offers professional women, small business owners, women of all walks of life who just want to stay connected to important topics that impact their lives, with the opportunities to network, exchange ideas, and get actionable advice so that you can grow professionally and personally and support whatever your life goals are. That is the goal in general, and most specifically with this conversation today. This financial wellness series that we're launching today brings together experts from the financial world, and today also a mental health professional, so that together we can understand why money matters, and so many other pieces around that conversation. We have two incredible speakers to share and dive in and evaluate this conversation with us today. We have Jamie Mazzina and Tanvi Matthew, who I'll tell you both a little bit more about in a moment. They will guide our conversation around why financial wellness is critical to your overall health and what you can do no matter what age you are at to become more fiscally empowered. Special shout out right now to M&T Bank. They are a sponsor of this event. We are so grateful to them for their support. These events do not happen without a team that pulls them together. Obviously, the financial support to make it happen is key. The volunteers who are on your screen today as your presenters are key as well. They are devoting their time to all of you, to all of us, to the YWCA, because they believe in our mission and believe that all of you are important to invest their time in, and we're so grateful for that. We want to make sure that you know about them, their work, where they come from. So this is just an introduction to them. For Tanvi, it shouldn't be your first introduction if you're a YW regular, because she's spent some time with us before for sure, and we're so grateful for her to join us again. She's so talented. There's so many ways that I'm sure, can keep talking to her and bringing her into YW conversations. I also want to thank our team behind the scenes, starting with our coordinator, Alicia Maxey Green, our communications and marketing team. Also, again, it takes an end, the behind the scenes operation of our Zoom webinar today. It does take a village. Our village is small, but they are mighty, and we are grateful for them to be able to pull this together for you today. In case you are taking screenshots or sharing information about this event, we do encourage you to use the hashtag YWWenOnTheGo. And also, we'd love for you to take the opportunity, since some of you are already jumping in and doing it. It would be wonderful if you would, if you would like to introduce yourself, let us know a little bit about you. And drop it into the chat. As we know, the chat has evolved over these last few years with these Zoom accounts as being a place where there's just a lot of great activity happening simultaneously. So we do encourage you to use it that way. We also encourage you to use the Q&A box. If you have any questions, we will be answering them during the course of our conversation. We will take moments to integrate them, so please feel free to drop them in there, and we will do our best to get to every one of them. We are going to stay close to our time. We know that everyone's busy and has next place to go, which also leads us to the fact why it's a series, because there will be more to talk about, and we will make sure that anything that's left hanging gets pulled in somewhere else. We also, one last item, please make sure that we would really appreciate if you could take a few moments before you leave us today to answer the survey link that will be added into the chat box. It is so important for us to get your input about how this particular program was received and what other topics you would be interested in for the future. Our goal is to best support your needs, and that really helps us to be able to do that. And so with that, let me jump right in and share a little bit more about our speakers for you. Jamie Mazzina is a Vice President, Branch Manager at M&T Bank in Oradell. She, in her role there, has established a relationship with her local community with a strong emphasis on supporting women and business. Again, folks, this is why it's important to have women in all these important places, because it really takes a woman to be in that role to make that a priority. So we are so grateful that she's there, that M&T has supported, her appointment in leadership, and that she is supported in making that a priority, and says so much about M&T as a business for sure. With that, she is active in her community. She is the community chair in the role for the Women's Interest Networking Resource Group, and it's a partnership with the Hudson County Women's Chamber and the Women's Center for Entrepreneurship, as well as she's involved in so many other local interest groups. And obviously she's here today, so we're so grateful for your support of the YWCA. Welcome, Jamie. And Tanvi, as I said, those of you who are regulars with us have met her before and have seen her around. She is truly a friend of the YW. We're so grateful that she could join us again. She is a licensed psychotherapist and certified life coach, practicing in mental health now for 18 years. She is the founder and clinical director of Emerge, the counseling and coaching center that's located in Ridgewood, New Jersey. Tanvi is devoted and passionate around her work. While developing her professional career, she also does the balancing act. She also is has been building her family simultaneously. She is a wife and a mother to 3, and a pup too, right?
Yes.
We've got a furry baby in that house.
Yeah, I think we got them around the same time.
Yes, I know, I remember. And so Tanvi received her Bachelor of Science degree in Psychiatric Rehabilitation from Kane University and her Master's of Science degree in Rehabilitation Counseling from the former University of Medicine and Dentistry of New Jersey in 2018. We agree, Robin. She is amazing.
Thanks, Robin.
She resigned from her position as director at the hospital to create a better work-life balance between her career and her family, and her perspective is to maintain healthy lifestyle, healthy relationships, and truly be content in the life that individuals must have the ability to acknowledge how their experiences have shaped them. People need to be willing to learn, process, and communicate to break down barriers and overcome obstacles. And that is the work that she really focuses on. And with that, we're so grateful that she's here to, talk about that healthy lifestyle, very specifically today for us around financial wellness.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you both for being here. I wasn't kidding to all of our guests. These are 2 powerhouse women to jump into the topic. And so now that we've gotten through all that stuff, let's jump right into the important conversation. Tanvi, let's jump in and start with the question for you. Why is money a topic that makes so many women feel uncomfortable?
Ooh. So women have really just fully been entering the workforce as powerhouse over the past few decades, right? Like with equality and the gender roles and everything. And it's always been considered inappropriate. It's rude. We don't talk about money. It's a personal topic, and it's taboo. So, I think even for me growing up, my parents always said, it's not good etiquette. We don't talk about religion. We don't talk about politics. And we don't talk about how much money we earn. So for a lot of women, that's kind of been embedded in their minds. And it's a big conversation that comes up in my therapy sessions and in the coaching practice as well. We work really hard to earn our money and get to where we want to be. And sometimes people don't get to that place as easily as they might see others getting to that place. So what I tend to see is that women will talk about having fear of not being able to retain what they're earning, not being able to keep up with what they're seeing around them, other in their social settings. Other women might be earning a lot more, or what seems to be a lot more, losing what they've worked for, because we know, right? Like with the way the economy goes, it's constantly up and down. So there's a lot of confidence and comparison that goes along with that, not being good enough, comparing themselves more to others. We compare ourselves more to others than men do. And ultimately, we don't like to say this out loud, but it does happen because we're so emotionally driven. Women try to one up each other a lot more than men do, and trying to keep up our success a secret and keeping our success to ourselves. A lot of times people don't want to share that. And that's why, WEN is so important, because we are trying to do the exact opposite. We want to empower, we want to share, what are your capabilities? Where can you invest? Where can you grow? Where can you work smarter and not necessarily harder? So just last week, I'm trying to hire some people, some therapists. So if there's any therapists on here that are looking for a job in private practice, reach out to me. And I had somebody that came in for an interview, and she was new to this. And as we started talking, ultimately, we started to realize that she would be better off opening up her own private practice. That's where she wanted to thrive. So the interview actually turned into a mentoring session. And she said she didn't know where to start. So, we started talking about, what fees look like, what she can earn, what the capabilities are, what her niche is. And she really got into like what she's looking for as a salary range, annually, what she can afford, what she can't. And it just became such an empowering interview session for her, because she walked away and then she reached out to me and asked me, she was comfortable enough to ask me if I knew any office spaces for rent, and if she could reach out to me in the future, as she starts setting up this business eventually. And of course, I want to support, so nothing's being taken away from me, and I'm able to offer someone else some help and offering, another avenue for her to grow in financially. And it was just such a nice conversation that we had over an hour about money, which I don't know if 15, 20 years ago, I would have been able to do that.
And thank you for modeling that conversation for us and sharing it, because I think one of the things is we're all raised, many of us, I should say, were raised with that trifecta of no politics, no salaries, no money conversations, no religion. And we are in a different age, and it sometimes feels out of sorts to suddenly start talking into that space, so it's really helpful to be able to hear how you integrated it and kind of embraced it. And obviously the two of you both left, empowered, from that experience, for sure. So why, you mentioned men in the conversation, and of course, our focus here truly is empowering women, but I think it's worthy taking just one moment about, from, how we're socialized. And I see Jamie's shaking her head, because I think she's got some thoughts on this too. Why is it different, this kind of money conversation, this emotional attachment to money? Why is it different for women and for men?
I think traditionally we're used to seeing, or there's the thought that men will be able to get to the top of their career quicker than women. We know that women have traditionally had to work harder in the past. When I take a look back at my career, and I know for a fact that, men who were at the same level as me, and we carried the same roles, were making more money than me. So it is a lot tougher for us. But, men see money as power and freedom, whereas women see it as security and love. And I'll give you examples of that. So with power and freedom, men feel more liberated, right? It gives them the opportunity to explore interests. You'll see them taking more risks with businesses and job opportunities. I can't tell you how many jobs my husband has probably jumped through at the university he works in, and he's gotten every single one. I have worked at 2 jobs, the hospital and my private practice in my career, so I see the difference there. It makes them feel more, feel more self-sustained and independent as well. And it gives them the further ability to make choices and not feel so trapped. So we would say, sometimes that they think more logically, and they have a wider range of perspective when it comes to how to earn money, where to earn money. There's more confidence there. For women, when we refer to security and love, we're more likely to spend frequently. We also have this false belief that money makes us happy and brings us joy more frequently than men do. Men experience that too. We are more likely to buy nice things and purchase things to relieve our anxiety, stress, and loneliness. And we put a Band-Aid on it and try to make it say that it's okay. So the choices are different, and not to say that it's 100% this or that, but again, like another story, like 10 years ago, I was really unhappy in my role when I was working at the hospital. And I knew what was happening. It would cause me a lot of stress. And I got into this pattern of behavior where I was earning more than enough money. And every week, believe it or not, I was going shopping to every boutique in the area. I would follow them on social media, pick out a new outfit. I still have all those outfits 10 years later sitting in my closet with a label on it, and so I knew that money was fulfilling something temporarily for me, and it wasn't helpful. When I got myself out of the situation that I was in, I realized it, and the behavior started to really change. But yeah, we tend to get more stressed and anxious, and when we feel lonely, it fills that void more often than it does for men.
Yes, I know there's the never ending memes of the Amazon delivery person,
Yeah.
especially during this time of the pandemic, is kind of, being one of the most joyous parts of our day, knowing that we get that little tick that your package has arrived.
Oh
But
yeah.
it definitely is wired to this conversation, for sure. It's kind of become a joke. But the reality of it is, it really is linked to our mental health. And so I'm going to switch to Jamie right after this conversation, but I think it's important because it frames the conversation we're going to have with Jamie. Talk to us a little bit about your belief system, around money, and how it helps us determine, how it makes us, feel, where we fit, in the world. And then also, how does that impact our mental health? Because sometimes people may not understand that we're having this conversation about money, but also talking about mental health. They may feel like, those two things, don't make sense together.
Oh, it doesn't, but it does when we really bring awareness and that level of consciousness, right? So money tends to boost our confidence, right? When we make more money, we feel good. We're on top of the world. When money goes down, just think about our investments, right? The stock market, we panic. It's that fear. Oh my gosh, am I going to fail? So that's a big thing that we have to take a look at, because it can create the biggest self-defeating thought of who we are, right? And how we reflect on ourselves. It also creates imposter syndrome, right?
Mm-hmm.
That word has been very impactful over the past 3 years. A lot of times now when I get phone calls for referrals, a lot of the women, I have seen this trend over the past 3 years where women say, I think I might have imposter syndrome, trying to be somebody that we're not. And again, money has everything to do with that. We take on this persona of who we want people to believe we are, and we create this facade, but that costs us dollar amounts. So we need to create balance all around, even in our last conversation from last year when we did work-life balance, it's important across the board in everything that we do. We have to have smart investments and financial stability, not just for now, but for the long term, to bring people ease, in what they're feeling. That's how we want to create it. Money has a tendency to control our belief of what we're worth. But a lot of times we're just focused on the here and now, and we're not thinking about what's going to happen during retirement or 10 years from now. And I'm sure Jamie can Jamie's the professional at that. I don't want to get into that, but you know, we don't want to, our belief system is what can lead us to accruing a lot of debt in our lives. And it brings, again, it brings on that, it goes full circle. It brings on a lot of stress for people when they enter retirement because they don't have the funds that they think they were going to have because they're so busy trying to pay this off from what
Yeah. And obviously that does so much in terms of helping shape our sense of self, you know, all of these things that you're talking about. And, you know, so clearly that is so important in terms of us being able to really get to the root of the you know, financial part of this, you know, to be able to project that, you know, in the strongest way possible. So Jamie, you know, we're obviously talking about how you know, where this all fits kind of in our self-concept, in our values, in our you know, in what we're putting out into the world and how we're feeling, you know, internally in ourselves. What age, you know, should we be, you know, we said, doesn't, you know, when we started, this is, you know, whatever age you're at, you'll walk away with something here. You know, what age should we be talking about money? I mean, obviously we're going from the mindset of don't talk about it at all. But now when should we start and introduce these conversations, and when should we be having them?
Yeah, this is a great question and an important one. So, I mean, I'm thinking all the way, how do we instill these, you know, money habits in our children in our future? So anyone that has children will probably say like around the age of 3, like we start to understand the concept of money. So whether it's, you know, learning about coins or what a dollar bill is, you know, we can really start to teach that. And I think, you know, we understand it quite early. And what I would say, it's never too early to start talking about money values. So, you know, like Tanvi said, something that was so taboo, you know, quite some time ago. Now we should be teaching our kids the same way we teach them, you know, how to tell the truth or how to be kind. You know, we should be teaching them what matters to your family and the value of money and creating these habits. What's a priority for you? I would also say a great way to create these habits with young adults, and that's something that I really do focus on. We really do focus on for not only young women, but in general, financial literacy, because it does start at a very early age. You know, use cash, and that could go for any age. You know, a lot of times we move away from cash, and I think, you know, it has its time and place, but you know, when you're giving a young adult or yourself even a debit card, you're kind of giving that infinite idea. So cash really sets a limit on choices. Also start the banking habits early. So this is more just to instill it in the youth. A lot of institutions definitely have that kind of first account where they could start learning at the age of 13, you know, about depositing, about writing a check, about balancing a checkbook, you know, not spending what they don't have. So, you know, I think the biggest thing to remember too is that most habits are learned from parents or caretakers, family, and now even social media. I mean, that has such a big presence. And I know Tanvi kind of said about that imposter syndrome. You know, I think a lot of what we're surrounded with and also the youth, it's really just important to set those habits.
Absolutely. And that's so good to that's such an important reminder to, you know, again, make these not taboo conversations, start them at a young age. And that way, you know, when our kids grow up to be, you know, our ages, it's a whole different mindset because of the way it was introduced and shared, for sure. So I know, based on who we have on here that I can see, that I know, and just who our regulars are, and you know, just, you know, calling out some of, you know, who I see here. I know we've got you know, so many of our great board members. You know, we have from, you know, Parent Matters, we've got Rona on here. We have Tia Jackson, who is the owner of the wonderful TJ Southern Gourmet in Englewood. So, you know, you have folks that are involved in nonprofits, that are involved in for-profits and small businesses. You know, how do we help women get access, you know, and find the financial resources that they need, whether it's for their, personal banking or whether it's for their small business. I mean, these, there's so many women on here that are, I know our board presidents on here, Hollis, and she's got Cool Kids Reads. I mean, she's launching, and, we have some people launching new initiatives, other people that are in the beginning of initiatives that are already in process, like Parent Matters that are growing every day. And, like as I said, TJ Southern, a restaurant. So, all different kinds of businesses, but I hear it over and over again, how do we get the money for them?
Yeah, of course. Very important. And I know you kind of touched on that personal end too. So I know with the mix of everyone on, I'll just start with, personal resources. So there's so many, I probably don't know everyone and I can't cover them all today, but, start with your bank, start with the institution that you're at. Finding the right bank is very important because there are so many underutilized resources and tools that you're probably looking for that you're not taking advantage of. Many institutions have applications or programs built right into their online banking to help with budgeting and tracking different resources. So, ask these questions of your financial institution. If you're doing business with them, they should be helping you back. Set goals, find a great CPA and an accountant. That's really important for everybody. Somebody you can build a relationship and gather advice from. There are many nonprofits, like you mentioned. I mean, we're here today with the WYCA. So it could just be as simple as joining these kind of resource webinars, Googling something in your area or your town. Social media is also a great platform to learn about other resources and other groups that are very active out there. And that could be a great support system. For your business, again, your banker should be able to recommend and provide resources that fit your needs. Whether it's groups such as like the Women's Center for Entrepreneurship, whether it's internal SBA programs for you. Networking, I think, is just the key to any business. If you're not involved in great networking, get out there. And I know it's not everyone's comfort zone, but there are plenty of groups and more casual settings that you will find such great resources that you wouldn't expect. Right away, people think they need to go to some kind of professional. It could be somebody that's just a key player in the town that can give you resources to what you need, or, people that are in advertising that can give you advice for your business. So, get out there on LinkedIn, look up networking groups, look up maybe local chambers. There's a couple of things I could probably share that you can go on and meet other like-minded business owners, because they're all going through the same thing with you. And I would definitely like to mention score.org. That's a free mentoring business program for businesses. And it's from other business owners. And I have so many small businesses that have used them, and they're just phenomenal. They'll be with you from start to end, coming to your place of business, giving you advice, helping you, whether it's starting to do financial projections. Definitely check out score.org.
Thank you. Those are so many great resources. And we will be dropping some of those links for you. Our team is listening, and they'll put some of those links into the chat for you also, in case you want to check out some of the references that we just heard. So, with that, and obviously so important in this conversation, it doesn't matter if you're a small business owner. It doesn't matter, if you're, focused on, your family's budget. It doesn't matter if you're, in the corporate world. How, as women, can we kind of move ourselves to saving money? I know you mentioned the strategy, first of all, of using cash. I know, especially during this pandemic time, we're all paying with our Apple Pay, on our phones. And, it's like, ooh, Christmas time always, you're paying and you're not seeing, even getting a receipt sometimes, by doing that. But, what are some of the strategies to help all women? Doesn't matter, where their focus is right now, but how can we save money?
Right. So, let's face it, life is expensive. Emotionally, I'm sure some of the things that Tanvi said, we all relate to. I think being a woman can be expensive. But when it comes to saving, it's all about budgeting and setting goals. So much of what I might say might not be new, but the problem is the commitment. That seems to always be the challenge. So start actively tracking your finances. Use real-time data. If we're kind of like old school and waiting for our statement to come in after 30 days to kind of balance our finances, it might not be helping you the way you want it to. So, take charge of those digital applications, online banking, real time, budgeting apps, like I mentioned, spreadsheets. Staying organized is key. You have to stay organized. So whatever that looks like to you, whether it's, your own little folder, some people are keeping notes on their phone, calendars. Like I'm a huge calendar person. Like everything is in my calendar, from like when my bills are due to, kids' appointments, whatever organizing looks like to you, and you have to be active on it. On a larger scale, I would share the 50-30-20 rule with everybody. So, I can hopefully share my screen. It's just a visual here.
Yeah, I think we have that enabled for you, so you can pull that up.
All right, and I'm gonna make sure I can do that. Sorry here.
I know the 80-20 rule, but I'm excited to learn about this percentage too.
Yes, so hopefully you guys can see that there. So it's a great way to start. So as you can see from the slide, 50% of your income is kind of based on your needs, right? So rent, mortgage, groceries, but then we kind of want to keep what our wants are to a 30%. And that's okay, because emotionally it's healthy. And I think Tanvi would hopefully agree that, maybe this is dining out, maybe this is a movie night, maybe this is that new pair of shoes that you want. So, keep it to a 30% of your income. And then as always, like your savings and your debt, it has to be a minimum of 20%. So, set those goals, take your income, break your income down like this. And this is holding yourself accountable also.
Mm-hmm.
I probably, let's see if I could share one more around, saving here. And, just some simple stuff around savings. So, make it a habit. Like we said, if it's at 20%, use automatic money movement, right? Like if you're automatically distributing 20% of your paycheck to your savings, that's great. You're almost just letting that accountability flow. Again, the automatic savings, and, I know this sounds silly, but limit your spending, right? So hold yourself accountable to that 30% to make sure that you're not going over those wants there. There's small ways that I'm sure everyone knows about, just like limiting yourself to cash daily, right? So when that's done, that's your limit. Packing food for a lunch, coupons, all that stuff.
Right.
But we know, I'm sure we are very savvy women. I'm sure we know all of this. But I would say the real strategy just starts with creating an active budgeting that you're actually using, and kind of using that 50-30-20 rule.
Yeah, and I appreciate Parker saying that you can't stick to a budget if it isn't realistic, and having that framework that you just shared that focuses on some space for the wants is so important in it being successful. And Rona Vega sharing how she had her 18-year-old daughter meet with a financial planner before she went off, as she's getting ready to go off to college, and how important that's been, that she's been having these discussions with her all the way from middle school. So it does make a difference in the mindset for sure if you are introducing these conversations. We do have a few questions that are in the chat. I will get to them, but before we jump into the questions, I'd like, you've both given us so much perspective for sure. Let me ask both of you a question, and it's a key one, I think, that keeps us from sticking to a budget, like Parker said, right? Definitely keeps us from sticking to a budget, and keeps us from a mental health perspective feeling good about our relationship with money. And it really has to do with those emotional triggers, the emotional triggers that kind of, even with our best plan that you both set us up for, that trigger regarding money, will just bring us into a place of, spending in a way that does not stick to the plan. And then, we then get laden with fear and guilt and shame and anger because of that trigger. How is it that we can, identify our, money emotions, if you will, and break free from the disempowering beliefs and patterns that keep us away from sticking to it, which is obviously the road to emotional and financial success around money wellness. So please, both of you jump in here, please.
So, I want to piggyback a little bit off of what Jamie just did with the 50-30-20. Wants and needs, we need to be able to break them down. And how do we identify that? Wants are our desires, right? And needs are necessities that we have to have: basic food, clothing, shelter, education. And with the desires, needs obviously comes before desires, right? And we see that with the percentage that she gave us. But we also need to fulfill that desire because it's going to motivate us. It gives us that factor to keep going on. Like, yes, I'm earning it. I'm working towards something. Like, I can have nice things because I'm doing what I need to do day to day. But there's also living the, you have to think about balance between living the life you want to live versus living the life that you can afford to live, right? So with that, you want to see, where are you spending? When are you spending? Why are you spending? How are you spending? You want to recognize what the trend is and attach how you feel when you spend. How do you feel before you go out? What is it that's triggering you to get out there? And it's going to help you also identify, how you view success, because it doesn't just mean money. It's all around. Success is fulfillment in every aspect of our life. So while money is needed to get the basic necessity we need to survive, its purpose quickly gets skewed by materialistic items that also attracts us. So I think women have to think about how the longer term overall goal, which is becoming more independent. We're getting so close to matching salaries with men now. Right now, I think the current is like 82 cents to every dollar is the comparison that's showing. We are more inclined these days to become breadwinners and give our spouses the options to be stay-at-home dads as well. So you can't just say you want something. You have to get yourself out of your comfort zone. You have to start breaking unhealthy habits and starting new ones, because we are constantly changing and we're constantly growing. So we have to take that into consideration. And every year we should explore our goals. What does our success look like this year? How far am I from reaching it? What are some new goals that I want to set? So you'll know when you start finding that passion as well. And it all everything kind of just starts to set into motion.
Yeah. And I think, I don't know if I'm going to say it any better, any differently than you, but, kind of reflecting on what you just said, we're taught so many times to take our emotion out of things. And I think as women too, right? We're like, oh, take your emotion out of it and, keep it simple. And I think you don't have to remove your emotions from your financial decisions. I think that's what makes you human, and then also adds to your mental health. So, I would say just use them to understand your values, your fears, your needs, your wants. For instance, if you want to go on that vacation, it's budgeted, like that's an investment for your mental health, that your 401ks, maybe that gym membership, we might not be seeing it that way, but that's an investment, it might be in that wants kind of, needs category, but it is an investment for you and your happiness. And I would just add maybe a simple way of thinking how you can flip your financial decisions, instead of making them feel heavy, like, oh, well, if I buy this home, I'm going to have this mortgage. If I take this business loan, now how much is my business going to have to pay a month, right? Like we start to feel very heavy about our financial decisions, but ask yourself, what do you gain from it? Because sometimes the gain is so much better, right? Like sometimes you can't grow your business if you don't take that, line of credit. So where it feels heavy at first, just reflect on what you gain from it.
Yeah. And just to piggyback off of that, Jamie, what you said, right? It's, you don't want to be problem focused. You don't want to just think about all the weight, that extra weight you're going to be carrying, but you want to be solution focused. What is this going to do for me? How is it going to help me and benefit me?
Yes, definitely.
So we have a few questions. I want to try to get them in, or our time as always just kind of moves quickly, and we're sorry for that, because there's always so much to cover, which is also why this is a series, as I shared. And again, I really do want to thank M&T Bank for their financial support and kind of, being able to help us gather all of you today for this conversation. And I also want to make sure to thank Veris Residential, also, who is committed to this wellness series and is joining us for this journey as we, bring the various pieces of this conversation to all of you. The one question that we have in the Q&A is, why is savings and debt together? Kind of in, and maybe we need a little bit more clarification on that question if somebody wants to add it in. And I don't know if it's in the grid that you showed there, maybe in our savings and debt was coupled together. Let's see if we're getting a little clarification. Yes, it was on the chart that way. The question was, why would they be coupled together?
So at least paying, so I'm trying to, it's the chart with the round circle. Okay.
Correct.
So yes. So I guess you can think like, yes, my debt would be in my needs, right? Because I need to pay my debts, but we also, like, not every debt is the same. So when we're thinking about like minimum payments, maybe no interest. So we put savings in debt because, you're kind of paying those at the same level. I mean, there's other ways that you could pay off debt, and I think it's really important, but 50% of your income is going to go to your needs first, right? Like when you get your paycheck, you don't think like, I'm going to pay my credit card in full, right? Like, no, it's first you got to pay your mortgage, you got to buy food on the table, maybe pay like a tuition or your daycare, and then whatever's kind of not left over, but then you pay your bills based on what's left out of that, because you're not always paying those in full first. So you have to satisfy the wants first. And that's why we put debt and saving into the 20%. And I hope that makes sense. But when you kind of think about how you take your income and you disperse it, maybe it'll just make more sense that way.
Thank you for clarifying that. I know Anita Rivers, who's with us, she's with Fairleigh Dickinson University, and she spends so much time out in the community and, in her volunteer work, as well as, in her professional work there at FDU, in terms of, educating and, engaging the community. And she's asking an important question, as I said, when I was shaking my phone, kind of making a joke about it, but we are now a cashless society in so many ways. And there's a whole new world of cryptocurrency, out there as well. With all these financial literacy models that we are talking about, and ways, age appropriately to share them, with, as folks are growing, how can we be sure to integrate this into it? Because, they are some of the parts that maybe feel a little bit more dangerous because they are removed.
I guess I could jump in. To be honest, like with all our financial literacy and kind of what we talk about, I'll just be very transparent. We're not integrating it. I'm not saying it's something that we shouldn't possibly be doing, but because it's kind of not a real-time payment, like on our everyday life, it's just something that we're not kind of integrating. But, digital payments, I know there's a lot out there that we educate on. So I'm sorry, I feel like I can't really say why, but I think it is an important thing to start discussing.
Yeah. Well, and I think that, thank you for sharing the transparency around that, but it does show that this is obviously something that's around, and happening and people have questions about, and obviously it can be a trap, if you will, because of, how it's a bit removed. So it's good for us to be thinking about, and I appreciate you sharing that, Anita, and raising it. We also have a question about that, you all mentioned imposter syndrome, which, as women, especially if you're gathering in these, types of forums, we hear about it a lot, right? And as we should, because it is really something that, we're saddled with for sure. But you mentioned, how do we change imposter syndrome that you were talking about, to stop spending money on unnecessary things? Like, I know we talked about the emotional triggers a little bit, so clearly there's a piece of it, in there. But how do we kind of flip out of that mentality, so we stop ourselves? Maybe we need a little kind of reinforcement of the previous conversation here too.
I think it would be a combination of some of the things that we discussed, right? First, you need to ask yourself, why am I doing this, right? Why am I making these purchases, or why am I spending this money the way I am? What is it fulfilling for me? So you have to connect with yourself emotionally and recognize the feeling and, what's attached to it. So sometimes people are saying, well, I don't know how I feel. And I say the easiest way that you can try to connect with a feeling is you have to recognize that everything that's happening mentally and emotionally is also physically manifesting. So, if we're anxious and if we're anxious, we're going to probably feel it more in our gut. Our body might shake a little bit. If we're stressed, we might feel the migraines. If we're excited, which often happens with spending, it'll perk us up a little bit, right? So we'll feel a little bit more of that elevation, but recognizing, is it necessary? Do I need this right now? Or can I fulfill this feeling in another way right now? Also, with imposter syndrome, it's am I trying to be somebody for everybody else? Or am I trying to be this person for me? Recognizing that, because we often, with imposter syndrome, we lose focus on our own goals and what it is that we want out of life. And we're trying to fulfill everything that's happening around us, right? So we hear that phrase, keeping up with the Joneses. The Joneses don't exist. They don't. It's a made up family that, there's no such thing as it. So we need to be able to sit down again and identify what it is that we want out of life, for ourselves, and where will we feel that contentment.
A great response there. And I also want to say, just in terms of looking in the chat here, Tia shared, and I think it's so important to point out, what she's done. She's got a daughter, close in age to mine, and she's already, as I said, Tia is the owner of TJ Southern and Englewood, but she's already has her daughter not only talking about money, but her daughter's already an entrepreneur, with Morgan's Minis. You can get her baked goods, and it was something that, just being around her mom and her mom's business that kind of planted the seed for her, and they developed this business, and now she's selling her baked goods as well. It's so important, I think, to have opportunities like that as a youth too, and think about how that's going to set youth apart, having those experiences and being connected to programs, even like the YWCA's before and after school programs and our camps, where we give opportunities, to plan and have activities that kind of model some of that, for you. So, for those of us on here that are thinking about the generation that we may be, if we are bringing up a generation, whether it's, your own children or a child that you have relationship with in your life, it's really important to think about how to model some of that for them, because a lot of us learn by doing more so than by listening, and for sure. And so many people are really resonating with the imposter syndrome conversation, and how important that it's been. So as I said, it happens quickly. We have gotten to that time. We are dropping in the chat here again that survey. We really would appreciate it if you take a few moments before you jump off to just, it's short, it's sweet, you know, it'll just give us just enough information to be able to do more and you know, really be more you know, attuned with your needs out in the community, no matter as a, you know, as a woman out there, where you are, what you're doing. You know, the YWCA has programming for you, and we will continue to be able to do that. Thanks again to the tremendous sponsors that we have of you know, this program in M&T and Veris, and also because of the wonderful volunteers we have in this organization, like Jamie and Tanvi, who, you know, give us their time, you know, to come share their knowledge with all of you. And because of all of you, you made the time to join us. Again, it is not a small thing that you carved out this hour for yourself. And the reality of it is there is some nugget that's stuck in your head for sure, whether or not you realize it now, that will resurface. And, you know, hopefully with that slowly move you into a pattern and a place that brings you to a healthier relationship with your finances because of the discussion that we had today. So grateful for those of you that contributed in the chat. For those of you that were just there listening, please take something that you learned today, integrate it into a conversation in the community, and tell a friend to stay connected to the YWCA, to these programs. Alicia, our whole marketing team, everyone works so hard. Is a place for you to grow more about ours. We hope you're staying connected to us on our various social media channels, and as well as being connected to our website. So with that, thank you all. Have a great day, be well, and make good financial wellness decisions for yourself with everything you learned today. Thanks so much. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.